click on Insert, and then go under Audio, and then Audio on my PC. Then locate your audio file, and then go under Playback here, and then choose how you want to play this audio file. You can relocate this, move this somewhere else, by the way, on your presentation here so that the icon does not show up. And you can choose to hide the icon, and also you can choose how it'll play. You can have it play automatically, and by the way, you can click on the icon here to get those playback tools here. And also it can play across all the slides. So if you're doing a presentation where you're not actually presenting, but there are pictures or there's content being displayed and automatically it's rotating and that type of thing, you might want to put sound on the first slide and then click on a play across all the slides, and you can choose also play until it's stopped, so it loops around. Now if we were to test this, at this point I have it so you click on it, but we could have checked it so it starts automatically. And then it'll just keep on playing from slide to slide to slide. A cool feature in PowerPoint 2016 is also the Morph feature here. Morph, it's new with the latest updates. As long as you have the latest PowerPoint 2016 updates, that feature should be there. If you don't have it there, that means that you don't have all the latest updates for PowerPoint 2016. The way it works is that it's actually pretty cool. You can take, for example, a slide, duplicate it, and by the way, this is how you duplicate a slide. Right click on it and then choose Duplicate Slide. And then go to this next slide here, and you can change something on it. So let's say when you're presenting this particular slide, you want it to be presented this way, but then when they go to the next slide, you want to take away, for example, number 2 here. And let's assume that you modified it. You can choose the option under Transitions to morph it. And I'll show you in a moment as to what this does. So it's going to morph from one form into some other form that you tweaked it into. In our case now, if we were to preview this, you can just simply click here on Slideshow, and this is how the first slide will appear, just like typically. But when I go to the next slide, notice how it does the animation so that those two items are adjusted, keeping in mind the change that took place from the first slide to the second copy of it that we made. It's basically you have to duplicate it, that's the trick. Duplicate an existing slide, add new content to the next slide, and then the system will animate or change, morphing the changes into animation and presenting it in a nice way. Any of the objects in a slide can be animated so that whenever you click on the spacebar or the mouse click or clicker, those objects can be presented one at a time or multiple units at a time, multiple objects at a time. It can be animation of pictures, of shapes. It could be animation of regular text and such. To animate bullet lists, as you go here under Animation, click on the bulleted list, and then the easiest would be to choose what you want the animation to be. For example, here we want to apply the Appear animation, and those will appear one at a time. So notice 1, 2, 3 here. These numbers mean that they will come one after the other once we click on them. To test this, notice we click on Slideshow, and those objects here we did not apply animation yet, and therefore they come in with a slide when it's presented. Now those items, notice they come one at a time after I click on it. To customize this even further, what I would suggest that you try is actually click on the animation pane option right here, and notice it shows the items that were animated earlier. Now notice it's a little double arrow here. You can expand the contents, and it says that that's number 1 over here, this is number 2, that's number 3. Now here, notice you can start this It says start on click. That's what these numbers 1, 2, 3 are. Start on click, and such. If we wanted number 2 here to come at the same time, to be presented at the same time as number 1, all you'd have to do is click on the drop down here on the right and then choose start with the previous. Now notice those two will start together because it's 1 and 1, and then the next one it'll come by itself. If I present it, notice I'm pressing spacebar once here, the two came together, and then the third one by itself. Now you can add animation to any of the other objects that I mentioned earlier. You can, let's say, add here for the PowerPoint image here, you can simply click on add animation and then choose to appear or however you want the animation to be shown. Let's say that I want this picture, because right now it's going to come as number 3, it's going to be presented as number 3. If I want it to come together with these two items here, drag this here where it says number 3, picture 3, and notice if you click on it, it highlights it, drag it to wherever you want it on the previous sequence. Then click on the drop down here and choose to start with the previous. That means that all these 3 items here, these 3 objects, which would be this, and the picture, they'll be presented at the same time. So if I go and present this at this point, notice all 3 were presented at the same time. Then you can do the same thing for these other objects. So the same thing for the shape here as well. Choose animation, however you want it to appear. Now, in the cases where you have smart art, and smart art is this type of art like this, it's pretty similar, but there is one difference to it. So you go under animations, and then you click on animation pane, and then you add some kind of animation to these objects. Now notice the whole object here is selected, the whole smart art is selected. Click on add animation and pick any of those animations that you prefer. It doesn't matter, just don't make it too much. Let's say we want appear, and now notice here under the animation option there are the effect options as well, because by default if I play it right now without doing anything else, it's just going to present it. But we can customize it so each one of those items can come separately. And the way you do that is by clicking on the effect options and then choose one at a time. So if I go and present this and test it, notice you have the planning stage, you have the doing part of it, then the checking, and then acting on it, and so on. So it's more effective when you're using this type of bringing each step at separate times by using the smart art. And again, the trick there was after you apply the smart art to it, you have this effect button here that you can pick.